Hi, I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live. We're doing episode number 70 today, if you can believe it, and that is on how to avoid vocal abuse. So we're starting a few minutes, about 2 or 3 minutes early today. It's a little bit of a pre-show show, and no commentary, only music. Hello. Hi. Hello. No commentary, only music. Hello. So I want to make sure that you can see me and hear me, and then we're going to be off to the races here pretty quick. So, vocal abuse. Hey, Subia, how you doing? Want to make sure that you can hear me and see me before we really get started in earnest today. So give me a sign here that congrats. It says, yeah. Yes, thank you very much. I don't blame you for wondering whether or not we were going to get it done. Yes, live in 3, 2, 1. Okay. So, yep, everything is fine. Great, except my voice. There's something about this hour every day which seems to be worse than any other time. However, we'll work our way through it today. I'm sure that we can do it. So, developing ability and real power in your singing voice, especially the high voice. Maybe I should just, before we really get started here, I'm going to see if I can clear my voice, and I apologize. Boy, gross, sick, and wrong, right? Let me just say hi to Audie. Nice to have you with us today. Audie's going to count down for me. Subia, I'm doing well. I'm in good health. It's just my voice is a little bit on the, I don't know what. Jennifer, nice to have you here with us today. Nice to see you. Altu, hi. Welcome you guys to this. We're going to talk about vocal abuse. I'll give it to you firsthand. No, I don't know. I've got a couple issues going here with my voice today. And I don't know what it is. How about a drink of water? Maybe that'll help. Hi, Hardik. Nice to have you with us today. It's great to have you here. Can you talk about vocal... let me see. Subi is asking about something here. Let me see if I can get it. I had to pull it over just a little bit. Okay. It's the top of the hour. Hi, I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live number 70. Welcome to this week's episode. We're going to talk about how to avoid vocal abuse. And this is a topic that comes up indirectly or directly frequently. And so we're going to talk today about how to avoid it. Now, what you're hearing in my voice is not necessarily abuse as it is congestion, I guess. Although I feel pretty good, there still get some things on my vocal cords. It seems like about this hour every day. So, hi to Berno Inferno. Hi to Hardik. Hi to all of you who have joined us this afternoon. It's great to have you here. Have you ever had a vocal problem through abuse? Let me know in the comment section below. Yes, you have abused your voice vocally, or no, you never have. I'd be curious to hear what your experience is. What is it, vocal abuse? All right, what is vocal abuse? Vocal abuse, it's an injury. It's an injury to your vocal cords. And maybe you've injured them any number of different ways. Singers usually end up injuring their voices by overuse or abuse of the voice itself, maybe yelling, screaming. You can abuse your voice. Now you can you can abuse your voice for a long time, like we abuse our bodies, right? But the injuries don't show up until after repeated abuse. So let's say you're a smoker. That's vocal abuse. And it's going to lead, very likely, very possibly, to injury. Maybe not the vocal cords, but very possibly so. I have a friend who had to have, he got throat cancer and had to have his voice box removed, the larynx, the vocal cords. I'm not sure how extensive it was, but he had to use a little machine to speak through. Heavy smoker in his lifetime. So we can abuse ourselves, abuse our bodies in a lot of different ways. But the vocal abuse that I'm talking about, I want to talk about today, primarily has to do with incorrect singing. And so the damage that can occur by abuse is anything from nodules, which are little blisters on the vocal cords, and there are hard nodules, which are kind of like calluses, and there are hemorrhages that occur through the abuse of the voice, meaning incorrect singing, or incorrect singing plus abuse, plus overuse, plus abuse. So let's take someone that's on tour, maybe night after night, week after week, month after month, year after year, and they sing all evening, then they have to get up early and go meet with the press. They have to go on the radio. They're promoting a new album, all these different things. Maybe they didn't get enough sleep. Maybe they've had something to drink, some alcohol, and perhaps tobacco use. All of these things add up. All of these abuses add up to injury. And so I guess that's really kind of a good point here, is we're really talking about how to avoid vocal injury. Now, I want to say hi to a couple others who've just joined us. Abby Hips. Hey, Abby, nice to have you here. And so Hardick says, unfortunately, I smoke once a week, I think is what he's saying here. I've got to fix my comment section here so I get, is that dangerous? Well, I think it is. And if you only have to smoke once a week, why smoke at all? In other words, why have the smoke pass through and pass by the vocal folds themselves and also and add that congestion to the lungs? For a singer, it's not a good idea. But since it's only once a week, I'm sure it'll be a lot easier to break the habit. Berno says he has abused his voice. I had a main part in a 2-week. Towards the end of the second week, my voice was in really bad shape, mainly due to excessive loud singing, forcing the volume. Okay, that's a good example. I'll tell you about abuse I had, or I experienced. One time I had the worst sore throat in my life. I mean, it really hurt, and it wasn't bacterial. It was the other kind, viral infection. And so, those kind, you can't just take penicillin or something and have it to eradicate the problem. So, you need sleep. You have to a lot of sleep, a lot of fluids. You can take some pain pills and things like that to to lessen the pain. But my throat was so raw, and not up on the roof of the mouth, down in the vocal folds and the roof. I mean, it's everywhere. It woke me up to go to sleep. I would start swallowing again. I'd rather expectorate than swallow. It hurt so bad. And I was in a show, and fortunately I was double cast. So I did the show on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and my counterpart did it on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And I had at least a high G to sing. I thought I had an A flat, but I think it was the G. And on come Monday morning, and Monday I could not vocalize that G. I did not have the note, and so I had no alternative but to call my counterpart who could do the show for me, and he was available and he did the show. Well, that's the only show I've ever missed, and I just hated it. You spend months getting ready for it and then miss a night. So the next day was bad. The following day, Wednesday, was my show, and I still had a bad sore throat. However, it wasn't quite as bad. It was just bad. So I could vocalize the G in some fashion. Probably wasn't the best, but I could hit it. So I didn't want to miss the show. So I took 4 Advil and did the show. 4 Advil and did the show. Now, following that show, and it wasn't just one song. I had like 3 numbers with chorus and a couple of solos. And so it was a pretty heavy-duty vocal show. It was HMS Pinafore, and I played Captain Coqueran, which is great, really fun. A lot of great memories with that. But one of the things happened is that after the show, and after a few days, I could tell that something was different about my voice. I had a scratch in the bottom of the voice that was constant, kind of like today. So I eventually went to a doctor, and he said, "You've got nodules on the false chords." He said, "I've never seen that before, but you have nodules on the false chords." Now, he didn't tell me I didn't have to take complete vocal rest, although I did need to be careful, and I continued to vocalize, which he recommended. I vocalized carefully, and so I had to rehabilitate that injury. What we also found out is I had some acid reflux, which was not allowing these false chords, or the nodules on the false chords, to heal, because they were continually irritated by the acid. So that was prolonging my recovery. So I had to start taking medications for acid reflux. It was really about 4 to 6 months before this whole thing resolved. Now, that's my story of vocal abuse. I shouldn't have sung sick. I shouldn't have done that. Let me say hi to a couple others here, maybe take a couple questions. So, Hardick says he's trying to quit. He's trying to leave it. I recommend it, Hardick. Save some money and feel better. It'll make you feel better. Does drinking black tea with honey help to heal a tired voice? I don't know, Subia. I've never tried it. There are a lot of different remedies out there and some work for some and others work for different people, and some of them don't work for the other person. So it's kind of an individual thing. I don't know of any reason why that would be a problem, but I've never tried it myself, and I think that's the question. You have to try it yourself. The bridge says, my smoking friends say around age 40 they started to lower the keys down a fourth. Yeah, you lose some flexibility. Imagine a piece of meat that beef jerky, for example, that is smoked in a smoker or at the manufacturing plant where they just pass smoke through the meat. You can see what it looks like after being smoked with some hickory flavor or something. I think it sounds like an awful idea to smoke in terms of singing. So the bridge says that his friends who smoke have had to lower their keys because they lose the upper. I believe it. Abby says, what about singing as loud and as hard as you can without bridging? Thank you, Abby. That's exactly what I want to refer to today. So let's talk about that. Now let me answer this last question here from the bridge. Did you sing your part good on the show while you were sick? It was acceptable. And probably the only people who would notice is maybe some of my cast would have noticed that it wasn't maybe as clear or as easy. But I got through it, and I didn't miss another one of the performances. but I think I would think twice before I did that again. Now, hey, Eternal, nice to have you with us today. Great. Look forward to seeing you soon. So the bridge says, when we demand from our voice what our voice can't give us, the problem begins. I would agree that. Now, that doesn't mean that you can never demand it, but you might want to grow into the demand. So let's talk a little bit about this for a second. The vocal abuse that too often occurs is in, well, I tell you what, it happens all the time. I hear it in popular music, in very popular music, and I hear it with popular artists, and I hear it occurs in all genres, and that is that we tend to sing at the top of our chest voice. In other words, the highest notes in the chest. So, for example, if I bridged at E, F, F sharp, above middle C, then the songs that seem that they're all written, many of them written for, are always landing on the E flat, right next to the bridge, or the D right next to the bridge. And so we're always in this song, it keeps going back to it. We're always ending at the top. We're always clipping the top of chest over and over again. And if you do that several times in every song, and then and throughout your sets in the evening, or in a theater show, whatever you're in, your voice begins to tire. And if you do that night after night, and add some of the other things, like maybe not adequate sleep and other things, you get a cold or whatever, then it's pretty easy to start abusing. Now, there's some thought that the way you develop your ability to sing high is by pushing the voice higher. So instead of saying, this is D to D, nay, 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 or no, 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 no. The thought is, well, you need to push it higher. No, 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 and just get used to singing higher, harder. And by singing higher, harder, longer, you're going to get bigger muscles, so to speak. We kind of compare it to like weightlifting. If you want to build bigger muscles, if you want to build bigger vocal muscles, then carry more weight up in your voice. Sing higher and harder and louder. No, 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 no. But let me ask you, what are you really building here if you're just going to pull the chest voice higher and sing it harder and louder? What do you think? What is it you're building in your voice? Think about that for a minute. What are you building in your voice? You know, there are a lot of weightlifters, power lifters, who just have huge, gigantic arms and shoulders and, really muscle bound, but are very inflexible. They don't move easily. They have injuries quickly and easily because they have no flexibility. They can't run fast or start and stop quickly. They have instability in their joints, their knees and their elbows and so forth, and or hips. Why? I'll share this with you. I remember one time after an aggressive workout where I was doing, chest and back, shoulders and arms. I think it was shoulders and arms. And so, I was lifting some heavy weights for me. And then I went and showered. I had no problems during my workout. But when I was in the shower and I reached for the soap, I got a sharp pain in my shoulder. Why in the world, after lifting multiple times, multiple sets with relatively heavy weights, why just reaching over to get the soap would my shoulder hurt, with not just an ache? I'm not talking about a tired shoulder, tired muscles. I'm talking about a sharp pain that occurred. The problem was I wasn't developing the smaller muscles that surrounded the joint. There are small muscles that don't get worked adequately with large, heavy weights. Now, the vocal cords, the vocal folds, I acknowledge are not the same as the vocal or as the shoulder joint or hip or knee joints. However, I think the principles apply, and that is that it's not necessarily by putting a great deal of stress on the vocal folds that we're going to develop a great deal of power in our voice. There needs to be a balance occur so that the vocal cords work optimally in all conditions. And I'm going to talk more about that. Before I do, let's say hi to a couple other people that joined us. Firebird Official. Great to have you with us today. He said exactly the same thing. I'm not sure who said what, but the Brit says, I don't think we are weightlifters as singers, but we are dancers and need flexibility. Good point. And Firebird Official, he said exactly the same thing. Eternal said, I like that analogy. Isn't true, though, when we work it out, a new muscle, it will be a little tender for a few days because it's a new area. It depends on the workout. It depends on how much weight and so forth. But yes, you probably will go through some, and not necessarily tenderness, but there's going to be remodeling of tissue and structure and new development of multiple different things, muscle, bone, tendon. There's a saying, there's a law called Wolff's Law, that if you don't use it, you lose it. And we certainly can see that as we age. If we don't exercise and use our vocal cords and keep our vocal cords in condition, we begin to lose the ability. Or if we abuse it. So the abuse comes by singing, punching the voice higher and higher in chest, and either kind of yelling it out or doing it too loud and just in the chest voice, thinking that if I just do that, I'm going to build a stronger, bigger, better voice muscle, so that in case I have this really aggressive high note that I have to hit, that I've got it there. That's not a good idea. So I'll talk about two ways that we can build more power into the voice without having to pull the chest voice, blast the chest voice, belt the chest voice up higher and higher, with the idea that that's going to make us have a strong voice. I will say this: you may have a strong chest voice, and you may have the ability to pull chest voice very well, pull it up high very well. I don't think it's going to sound very good, but you can do that well until you injure yourself. So an injury would be something like nodules, which occur by pulling chest voice too high, and or a hemorrhage, which is a rupture of a blood vessel within the vocal fold. And these have all occurred with many different singers, many popular singers in today's world. And oftentimes they result in surgery on the vocal cords themselves, the vocal folds. And in certain instances, there's not a full recovery. There's always going to be a little bit of damage. And that's also occurred with well-known popular singers. That's vocal abuse that's led to vocal damage, vocal injury, and that led to surgery, and that leads to, in some cases, now in many cases, they recover. They recover just fine after months of rehab. But if they don't change the way they're singing, they will re-injure themselves again. Very popular singer in England, a female singer, still in her 20s, has now had 2 hemorrhages. And it's partly due to the fact that she sings at the top of chest predominantly, in addition to it's a very demanding tour schedule, very demanding career that not many of us could do very well anyway. So I'm not being critical of of that. Just a very, very demanding life schedule. But I think there could be some help for all of us to adopt an approach to building more power into our voice and also avoiding abuse. All right, so hi to Frizoki. Is it a bad idea to sing with a sore throat? You maybe missed my explanation of that, Frizoki. Come back and listen to that later. I gave quite a long story about my experience with singing with a sore throat, and it was severe sore throat. I ended up damaging my vocal, the false cords, which are adjacent to, just lateral to the vocal folds themselves. So yes, you can damage your voice singing with a sore throat. Of course, there's different levels of soreness and intensity of singing and so forth. But listen to the previous story when this is posted. Victor says, how to avoid veins in the neck? I sing with technique. I practice and have been practicing with SLS technique for a long time, and I know that I do not abuse my voice, not much. But what can I do about what can I do so that they don't appear? Well, you know, there are times when I'm singing a high note, and I'm not yelling or chest up, but I've got quite a bit of vocal compression, and there's some contraction of the chord structure and so forth because it's what I need, or I happen to be moving in a certain way, or there's some motion, some choreography that's causing it, that I get some veins showing. I don't think that that's necessarily a sign that you're abusing your vocal cords. There may be some tension there that you can eliminate, and I'm sure that I am at fault too sometimes, where there's some tension there that I don't need to keep, that's surrounding my, in my neck and so forth. But sometimes the choreography or the motion, the movement, while you're singing, just generates some of that muscle that you have, that shows. So if it's a concern that you feel is affecting your voice, I would try doing it softer and see what happens. Bring the volume down a little bit. Probably maybe bump the mic up a little bit, the microphone. See what happens. Abby says, I had a voice teacher that used the muscles analogy. So yeah, I think that there's some relationship to that, to training. So if I were now, here's the caveat. I mean, there are different. It's not necessarily a caveat, but we have different genres. I don't do rock per se, and I'm not even that much into pop unless I'm doing a show that requires pop. I sing mostly musical theater, and there's some shows that are pop musical theater shows. At my tender age of 65, I tend to do the more conventional or classical theater kinds of things, and so I don't usually have that demand on my voice. However, you get all kinds of different genres within musical theater, and those of you who are in rock and pop are faced with sometimes very aggressive songs that you want to sing. Now, I'll just tell the story. I don't have all of the details behind it, but in my interaction with Seth Riggs, I became aware that he taught Ozzy Osbourne, and or had taught him. I don't know if he was teaching him at the time, but he had Ozzy's book, and Ozzy wrote a little note to Seth, which I can't say, but Ozzy, and so I thought it was interesting because Seth also teaches opera and musical theater and all kinds of genres of singers and so forth, and the very best, Barbra Streisand and Josh Groban and all these wonderful, wonderful singers. And so I asked him. I said, "How did you teach Ozzy Osbourne? Did you teach him differently?" And he said, "I taught him exactly like I teach everybody." Now, I can't remember I don't know if he even went into detail, except that I know what he was referring to was that he taught him how to sing without reaching, without pulling his chest voice, even on those high, very high, aggressive rock numbers. Now, this was later in his life. I don't exactly know what age. This is later in Ozzy's career. I'm not exactly sure when he started with Seth. So someone else would have to supply those details. I know he taught him. And I know that Seth said, I teach him the same way I teach everybody else. He teaches him how to bridge, teaches him how to mix, he teaches him how to narrow vowels when necessary in order to maintain this vertical vibration on the higher notes and so forth. And so I also had heard, and I don't know if I heard Seth talk about this or someone told me about it, but I know when Chester Bennington was alive, he taught him for a little bit. I don't know how much, I don't know how long, but I know he had him as a student. And he had some difficulty keeping him, reining in Chester Bennington because of the style of music he sang. And so I believe I heard Seth say something to the effect that essentially what he did was negotiated less abuse with Chester, less vocal abuse with Chester, and that's how he helped him hopefully not to create damage his voice in such a way that he couldn't perform or couldn't sing. Of course, he had other problems which led to his premature death. So these are principles that I know have been used by a teacher who has taught, many of the most aggressive singers and artists and icons in the industry. So I'm going to share those with you in a second here. Okay. Now, let me address a question here or two. So, hi, Victor. Hi. I don't know if I've said hi to you. Nice to have you with us here today. So the Brits asked, when I practice for about 25 to 30 minutes, I now understand why my voice tires and give up on the E flat and E, because it's getting tired there. Do you think in time this will improve? No, I think if you're always on those notes, you're going to tire. Do you need to go into the E, F, F sharp, G, A flat area regularly, repeatedly, because that's going to get you in mix and get into head voice, and that relieves the tension and the pressure of topping off the chest all the time. I think I would recommend that, L2. Okay, so Hardick says that since 3 days, when I sing 5 to 6 phrases, my soft palate gets really dry. So is this a vocal abuse? I don't think of soft palate. I've never heard that the way you've described it. You may be underhydrated, so you probably want to drink more fluids during the day. You want to try for about a half a gallon of water at least a day. So that's what I do. I'm working on my second 32 ounces here, or 30 ounces. First thing I do, some of you already know this, I drink about 30 to so ounces in the morning. Then I load this up and sip it throughout the day, and then I drink some ground up green drink, about a pint or more of that every day, and hopefully I'm hydrating adequately. It sounds like you may be underhydrated, Arctic. Try that and see if it makes a difference. Okay, Eternal says, from my personal experience, yes, your voice just settles there one day, and used to literally choke trying to hit a note past this. Okay, I'm not in on that conversation. C5, that's quite a ways up there. Actually, at a point, I could not hit F4 without straining or choking. Now the notes is... okay, so... Eternal's commenting on the Bridges comment. So you guys are chatting, and that's great. Eupadios, hey, how you doing? Nice to have you with us. All right, so let's talk about 2 ways to build some power into mix and chest without abusing. Maybe the fastest way is this nay, nay, nay. So if I started here on the E, which is the beginning of the bridge for the men, ladies, for you, it'd be the A above middle C. So the E above middle C for men, ladies, the A above middle C. Nay, 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 nay. You want to do that bratty sound with the nay, nay, nay. Guys down here, nay, 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 nay. Now, the bratty, witchy exaggeration is important because it tends to thin out the chest and fill in your upper, so that you don't go into falsetto. So you maintain some vocal cord participation in the sound. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. That's the A flat. Now for the ladies, you'd start on the A. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Keep that witchy bratty tone. Nay, 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 nay. Now, and on up to the C sharp. Now you can hear that I've got some congestion on my vocal cords today. It's rather frustrating for me, but this is not due to abuse. Now maybe the Diet Pepsi I had last night is abusive. Anyway, now doing that is going to start to build in some more depth in the chord structure, even though you're in head voice and even though you're in mix, so that you can now get a little bit more cut or bite into the sound. And you gradually go back to more of a normal sound. You drop that bratty sound, that exaggerated sound. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Then a little less bratty. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. And so forth. Now that's a pretty rapid way to get some power in it. If I said nay, 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 nay. Ladies, same thing for you. Nay, 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 nay. Now, probably could see some veins coming out there, but I'm not yelling it. The vocal cords are thinning out, and in the bottom, so the chest is not heavy. Because the other way of doing it, which would be wrong, would be nay, 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 nay. That'd be pulling up my chest voice. That's different. Nay, 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 nay. That's the correct way to do it, and that's going to continue to build strength into that. And then you could start to add, by going more towards normal now, do it on no, no, no for a second. No, 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 no. So a way to transfer that to another word would be nay, 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 no, 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 no. So go to a bratty no for a minute. And then a little less bratty, but see if you can maintain that same intensity without having to exaggerate that sound. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Nay, 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 no, 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 no. So you move back and forth, until you can do that without pulling up the chest voice. No, no, no. That wouldn't be right. And that's abuse, which leads to injury. Apologize for the scratchy voice, but I have a broadcast to do today. Now, The slower approach, and then I've got to end, is I would say probably, in my opinion, it takes a little bit longer, but I think it's even better. And that is to balance the voice without having to use the exaggerated sound of the bratty neigh, but in another fashion you could do it with that dopey sound. We would use gee, 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 gee. So you had that dopey sound, and that's going to pull the larynx down. We eventually get rid of that by going back to more towards normal. Gee, 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 gee. Gee, 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 gee. And it goes hooty if you stay dopey with it. Rather than gee, 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 gee. I'd just be pulling up my chest voice on the gee. Now, so this is a way to begin building power into the voice because you're bridging and you're mixing. And these things lead to bridging and mixing. So I'm working in the bridge, I'm working in the head voice area, and I'm not abusing by pulling up the chest. Now, another connected with this dopey sound is finding this real release in your voice so that there's no tension and no squeezing. Ma 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 ma. Now, one way of doing this that I've found is very effective, but it takes a while to get to this. I don't know if I'll be able to do it today because I've got some phlegm that's just like grabbing my vocal cords and won't let go of it. I think it's related to reflux, frankly. Mama. So, ooh, ooh, mama, 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 mama. So I go up on ooh and really have the release. Ooh, mama, 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 mama. But I do that. It's not falsetto. It's connected. Connected head voice. Ooh, mama, 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 mama. And then I press in or lean into that feeling of letting go. So the first thing I do is just go very, very easy. Ooh, and head voice. Ooh, mama, 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 mama. And then I sing into that feeling of release. I'm not saying, ooh, mama, mama. I'm pressing down into the condition of the feeling of letting go. For me, that's what really started to work. Because that way it led me to mama, 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 mama. So all throughout that area that used to be untouchable, on a good day when I don't have this going on, mama, 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 mama. So I get quite a bit of power there, but I'm not yelling, I'm not pulling up the chest voice. And to develop that, you want to work that this way, or with the bratty neigh, or with the dopey key. I've got to end before my voice gives up. I still have to teach all afternoon. Okay. So thank you very much for joining me today. I hope this is helpful. How do you avoid abuse? You practice that way. Don't yell it at the top of your chest. Get into your mix, get into your head voice, and do these three different approaches here: the bratty neigh, the dopey gee, or that complete release, in head, the freedom of release and head voice. Ooh, mama, 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 and then crescendo into it without losing that coordination. You keep that same mix or head voice coordination while you're doing that, and don't let it go in the chest, and that'll start developing and building that as well, and you get some really some great power. All right, so I've got to wrap this up. Just a quick hello to any other questions, or in a quick addressing any other questions. I think you guys have been kind of addressing. When you say power or bite, the sound, do you mean that as volume or heft in your sound, or both? Well, that's a good question. So when I say power or bite, it's not necessarily loudness, and it's not necessarily heft, because heft is noun. Well, so those are all bad words. Those are all bad from the standpoint they're not very, very descriptive. I would say that what's happening is, if these are the vocal cords, instead of singing ma 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 ma, where it's just the upper edges of the vocal folds, whether it's just light chest light head voice, or even falsetto, which would be instead of getting full depth of the chord structure, it's just the very tops of the vocal folds themselves. When I'm getting more power or bite into it, I'm getting deeper into the vocal folds. So I'm getting more contraction of the chord structure, so it's getting not only deeper, but coming together more firmly. And I'm not doing it by doing it necessarily hard. I'm just coming at it from a more balanced approach. In the case of this last one, now it's not letting me do it, but so I'm getting deeper into the chords, and that gives me a bigger sound. That's the byproduct is. It causes me to have a larger sound, more power in my voice. You could call it bite. You could call it depth. You could call it. You could. I think I'm more. I affiliate the word of heft down here. You can hear I have a hard time today going down to the bottom. So this might be my worst day vocally for a while. So that's a good question, Eternal. And I hope that helps. It's more about depth of chord structure. Isn't the nay-nay exercises meant to thin out the vocal cords and take off some of the chest weight? Correct. How would incorporating that exercise help build more power if it's intended to lighten? It doesn't lighten the voice. It just takes the thickness of the chord structure out. So instead of saying, ah, ah, I can do that soft. Ah, ah, nay, 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 nay. There's less thickness in my chords, in the vocal cords, but I can still do it pretty loud. Not necessarily thinning out to make it lighter in sound. Nay, 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 nay. But that's not nay, 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 nay. So I've thinned out the chord structure, but that doesn't mean the sound is going to necessarily be any weaker or anything like that. Okay, so thank you. I do get tired of phlegms because I have to often clear my voice. Don't know how to get rid of it. Sometimes it's allergies. Sometimes it's I live in a desert, so that doesn't help. It's sometimes we have a furnace going all the time, dry air drying you out. In the summertime, it's the desert climate out here for me. So lack of humidity, colds, nasal drip. For me, the acid reflux causes congestion in my lungs, interestingly enough, and that causes the congestion to cough loose, grab a hold of the vocal folds, and then I have something like this. So there's so many different reasons for it, Subia, that it's really, really hard to just address one thing to do that will take care of it all. If I come up with some magic bullet someplace that I do and can experience, I'll share it with you for sure. So I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing. This is Power to Sing Live, number 70. And our conversation today is how to avoid vocal abuse. And by following these principles, you can develop a very strong, a very powerful voice without it being abusive, and be able to develop your mix, develop your head voice, and not necessarily just keep pounding or clipping the top of chest all the time, because I don't think that's where the real development of the voice occurs. You develop chest voice, but you don't necessarily develop your ability to sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power, which is what this is all about. So I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing. Thanks for joining me today. You can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. I'll see you inside the next video. Thanks.